You'll make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Howdy! How's it going, guys? Great to see you. Welcome to Patio Benders. I'm Steve, and hey, we got a few weeks to go before Christmas, and I'm still looking for a Christmas decoration to build. So, as I'm thinking about that, there's 3 boxes I want to tick. The first box is I need to find something that nobody else is selling. Everybody's selling Christmas trees, angels, garlands, wreaths, but I want to find something unique. A second box would be, it needs to be easy to build. Okay, come on, I don't want to spend 2 weeks in that wood shop. We want to get these decorations built, we want to get them on marketplace, and then that's box number 3. We want to make some money. We need to find something with a high profit margin, so you know I can finish my Christmas shopping. Welcome to the shop. I'm on my way to the lumber store, and we'll get this project started. Boom boom, that's what I'm talking about. Well, we made it back from the lumber store, and yeah, we had a great time out there. It was a little shocked that our store's closing. It's like minutes away from here. The dogs love going there. And after thinking about our project, we decided to build the wooden snowflake. And here's our prototype. Now, it turns out that we can build 3 of these out of 1 fence picket. So we went out and bought 1x6x8 fence pickets. We purchased 10 pickets, but we only need 8 for this project. So we could build 20 snowflakes. Okay? Now, it does look intimidating, and that's the spin we want to put on this, is to show you guys that these snowflakes, even though there's multi pieces here, are fairly simple, fairly straightforward to build. And that's what we're gonna show on this build of these beautiful snowflakes. So that being said, let's light up the saws, turn on some heat, and get this project started. I ended up replacing the saw blade for the table saw and the miter saw. I figured with doing the indoor decor, Christmas decorations, and just get a cleaner cut with a new blade and less tear out. So once the blades were changed over, I started our project by cutting down our fence pickets from 8 feet to 4 feet. The reason we do this is so that it makes it easier to rip on the table saw. Easier to cut a 4-foot to slide it through than it is to slide an 8-footer through. So now that we got that all set up, we'll bring those boards over and we'll give each board a fresh cut on one side. Now you may ask me why we do this. The simple answer is basically gives us a square edge where we can make all our cuts off the fence. So once all these boards are trimmed, we can flip it over, and then we can cut all our pieces and know that they're nice and square. We talk about this in our previous Christmas tree video, and we'll leave the link up top. In that video, we go in depth to why we trim down the one side before we make any of our cuts. So there's three main pieces to this wooden snowflake. You have the main piece, which is the board. You've got the diamond, and then you have the wings. Now, the wings are cut at 5/8 wide. The diamonds and the main boards are the same size, and they're cut at 1.25 inches wide. So basic figured out how many pieces I would need of each, then brought the boards over and then cut each board to the amount, to the number that I need it in order to get 180 wings, 180 diamonds, and 60 main boards, which is what you need to build 20 wooden snowflakes. So now that I have that in mind, I cut these boards down to size, and then I just group them. So I have a group here with where the diamonds are kept, and then I have another group of sticks. These are going to be the wings, and then the third set is the diamonds. So now that we're at the miter saw, the first thing I did was I created a backing for my pieces to be able to rest on, because the miter saw fence does not come up high enough, so it's hard to do multiple pieces unless you just basically make a fence up out of your 1x6 picket fence, right? So as you can see, it's pretty simple, held on by one wood screw and 2 clamps. But now it allows me to get multiple pieces. Now, the neat thing that I'm doing here is I'm actually putting a screw into 4 pieces. And by doing that, that means these pieces won't move when I'm cutting them. So once the screw's inserted, I can bring it back. And I'm basically just marking a line on my fence. You can see the mark there. It's a black magic marker. And then we can cut these wings to size. So I just basically bring the board up to the mark. They're all screwed in together, so I know they're not going to move around on me. And then I can get 4 wings out of one cut. Then I take those 4 wings, I throw them in my little bucket that I have down below, and we'll do it all over again. And we got to make sure you hit the right mark. That's the other thing. Some of these I ended up going with the wrong mark, and then I had to sort through the bin to get the ones that were short out. Again, you want to get that right mark. There it is. Bring it down. And I basically did this until I got to 180 wings. So I did the same thing. I put a screw in the end to keep them all the same place. And then, as I'm cutting here, I was able to get 8 diamonds out of each cut. And so it basically helped me to get to 180 a lot quicker. Once I had all my pieces cut, then we were ready to sand them and stain them. So we had 60 boards, 180 diamonds, and 180 wings to sand. So I was very thankful for Tyson's help here. He came out to the shop and him and I went at it, worked away on it. And we're just basically sanding off the edges, any cutouts that there are. And because I have that new blade in the miter saw, there's very little to sand, which made it go a lot faster. And it really, really helped the sanding process. And total time to sand and stain all these, like, we started at around 5 o'clock and like we were done by 8:39. So we're looking at about 4 hours to sand and stain all those pieces. So I think that's pretty good time. And I honestly thought it would take us a lot longer. But once you get sanding them, you get staining them, it doesn't take long to get them all finished. I found that staining pad worked really well from Lowe's, and it allowed me to stain multiple pieces before having to dip into the stain again. And you'll also notice we're only staining two sides because the back side gets brad nailed and glued. Okay guys, we spent yesterday cutting, sanding, and staining these pieces. Now we're ready to assemble them. But before we get into assembly, I thought it might be probably a good idea to make a couple jigs so that the assembly process will be faster. Now, if you're just making one or two snowflakes, you really don't need to do this. But there's two reasons why we're building a jig. One is to hide the brad nails. So now, if we build a jig, we can build it backwards so all the nails go in behind, and then you don't see it on the front panel here, right? The other reason for a jig is when we have these pieces placed together on the board, then we can just slip it into a jig where we don't have to measure out 60 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 for these two. We just slip it on the board, on the jig, and brad nail it, glue it, put a screw to it, and we're done. And that's the advantage of having a jig. Now, we're building 20 snowflakes, okay? If they sell, we'll probably end up building another 20. So in our case, a jig makes sense. And in your case, if you're building one or two of these, you probably don't need a jig. And again, you can easily take some wood filler, fill those nails in. As long as the nails are in the wood, you can cover them up, you can touch them up, or what have you, and then you got yourself a snowflake. So we've got a piece of insulation here, I've got a piece of cardboard, brought some pieces in that we stained last night. And now I can make this jig where we trace out all our pieces onto this cardboard, cut out all those pieces, and then we can place our pieces in there upside down, face down, so that we can screw them and nail them in place. Now, I did not come up with this idea. In fact, I went on YouTube and searched wooden snowflakes and found a few videos that were very helpful. One in particular, I highly recommend that you take a look, as the video has lots of great tricks and tips that you can do in order to build this perfect snowflake. So again, just tracing everything out. Once I get everything traced, then I can go ahead and cut it. But let me show you not only how I trace out the board, but how I trace out the wings and diamonds. So again, after my main board is drawn, I'm just drawing in the center. And then I'm gonna find center on the board, on the cardboard. Then I'm gonna draw my line and make sure I draw it long enough so when I place my diamonds on there, I have something I can go off of. After doing that, I just basically place my diamonds in there and just kind of centered it to get them where I thought they should be. Once I got them lined up and got them to where they needed to be, I was able to trace each diamond out in the right position, and then I was able to start cutting them. So this is me just measuring them out, making sure they're right, which they were, then starting with the 2, then working with the other 4, and as you can see, it's not that complicated. Just basically work away at it, eyeball it, measure it, trace it, and then we're good to cut it out. So when it comes to cutting these out, I just basically took my razor blade, took the ruler, cut the edges, and then went to the back side if I had to trim it out in order to get a nice clean cut. And you can see the board there, it works perfectly. And then that flower part, well, that's just a bonus, right? You cut that out, same thing. When you're done, you lay your board on top, you glue and brad nail all the flowers, the tops, the bottoms, the wings, the diamonds, and then you got yourself a pretty little snowflake. So as you can see, now that we have our cardboard jig built, we're able to lay the pieces upside down so the paint, the stain, facing towards the paint installation. And then we're able to place our parts and then be able to put our board across there once the pieces are in place. Now, you'll notice I'm looking at the stains because I kind of want to match the wing stains as the same. So if one was a solid stain, I want the other wing to be solid. If one had grains in it, I tried to match it with one that had grains and then place them in. So it took a little extra time because I wanted to be sure that they all looked like they were partnered up, and that's the way it was supposed to be. But again, once my pieces are in this cardboard, then I'm able to take the board, place the board on top, and then glue it together, brad nail it together. So now that we have all three pieces put together, I built this simple jig to bring it all together. So I just made it out of 1x1. I basically took two pieces, ran them across where I put the first piece in, and I marked center on the top and the bottom. Then, placing the other two pieces, I marked those walls as well with the perfect placement where it would be 60 degrees for an angle and everything at 15.5 all the way around. And that's basically how I assembled all 20 snowflakes. And again, as long as your marks are right and these boards are square, your jig is square, you'll hit the same perfect center every time. But again, it all has to do with your boards going around. Are they square? Did you get the marks in the right place? After that, as you can see on the wall, I've already got a dozen or so built. And then when we're done, we just pre-drill and put an 1.25 inch screw in there just to hold everything tight. And then, as you can see, we have a beautiful snowflake that's ready to put on marketplace. So it was another fun project to work on. We got these beautiful snowflakes on marketplace right now, and I'm starting to receive emails and texts for the product. So it's a win-win. We got ourselves a product that no one is selling in this area. They look great, they're easy to build, and we're gonna make a few dollars along the way. So like I said before, if you have any questions, any comments, please list them below. We're more than happy to answer any question you may have. Thrilled that you could be a part of this and you made it to the end. I'll leave you with a few still shots of the snowflakes, the photos that we took, and then I'll see you on the next build. Take care, guys. Have a great week, and we'll catch you again.